Hi guys, thanks for tuning to this episode of the Nick Egan Times. On this episode we have an awesome guest. We have Pat Sullivan. Pat has coached basketball for 44 years, 10 years at the high school level and 34 years at collegiate level. Pat believes there are great life lessons for young people to learn from sport. The importance of working hard. There are no shortcuts, teamwork. It's not only about you. Be a good teammate, discipline, work till the job gets done, no excuses, and listening. Pardon me. Athletes can teach you the importance of and how to listen and the integration of toughness and graciousness. In the arena, you must perform with toughness, but when the competition is over, treat everyone with graciousness. Pat is the author of Attitude, the Cornerstone of Leadership and Team Building, from the bench to the boardroom. Pat believes that he could share some insights into the importance of attitude in a leadership position and concepts that are important in building a team in athletics. Welcome, Pat, and thanks for coming on my podcast.
Oh, thank you, Nick. It's good to be here.
Thank you. How's it all going over there?
I'm sorry?
How's it all going over there?
Oh, everything's really going well. I did have a back surgery, Nick, 7-hour surgery, but recovering fine and ready to go.
Wow. Well, I hope you amend a lot quicker and better. How has life been for you since the pandemic's hit? I guess personally and on a semi-professional level as well in your life.
Well, I think the hardest thing for my wife and I, Nick, between us, we have 8 children. So not seeing the children and the 13 grandchildren, that was the hardest part because for a year, we were really careful with doing all the things, getting the vaccinations, wearing the masks. We were very careful with all that. So we didn't eat in a restaurant for a year. So it was difficult not seeing friends and family. But now it's great being able to do that.
Yeah, awesome. How long ago or recently did you get the vaccine?
Nick, I'm sorry. I should have here my earphones.
Have you recently had the vaccine? How long ago did you have the vaccine?
It's got to be at least 2 months ago. I had the second one 2 months ago. And all my children got the 2. Yeah, how about for you guys?
It's rolling out here. I think it's in the 40s and above currently. So hopefully it's not too long till I can get it myself because I'm dying to get it so I can go internationally traveling again. So that's obviously something that I love to do. So yeah, as soon as they get it here, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as we had it was really interesting here in the United States. First of all, you could not get it. Everybody was clamoring to get into the places that offered it. Today, Nick, you can walk in and get it right now. So it's really changed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's jump into it, obviously, for the listeners and your background and your life. Tell me about your life growing up and what it was like for you and your family.
I think I had the best neighborhood growing up that a guy could have. Our neighborhood, Nick, was Irish, Italian, and African American. So the friendships from that neighborhood have never changed. None of us had a lot of money, but none of us ever felt we were poor, because we had the thing that was more important than money. We had the love of family. So it was a great neighborhood. I certainly didn't need we have a lot of racism problems in America. I didn't need a minister or a sociologist to tell me that we're all simply human beings because I lived it. Yeah, I mean, I could be the only white person in the playground with 40 black guys, and it made no difference. So wow. It was a great neighborhood to grow up in.
Wow. And tell me about your family and your wife and your kids. Tell me about that.
very, very blessed. My wife, Peg, was a counselor at the university. We worked together at the University of St. Francis in Joliet, Illinois. And I don't know how I got her, Nick, because I got a good one. And then on my children, I'll be happy to say this. My daughter, Colleen, is the CEO of the digital part of a hedge fund in Chicago. My daughter, Katie, is the finance director for another hedge fund that's, Nick, it's a multi-billion-dollar, not million, with the B, hedge fund. My son, who was at IBM, now is with Accenture, and they have like 300,000 employees all over the world. And they're a consulting company. And Pat, he's been very blessed. He's worked his way into the upper 1% of that firm. And my daughter, Ann, lives in Connecticut. And believe it or not, she also is involved in a hedge fund. So 3 of the children didn't get into coaching like their dad because they were smart, Nick. And my last daughter, Bridget, was a college professor. And she now is getting another degree from Northwestern University in counseling. So the kids are all doing well, and thank you for asking.
That's astounding, and yeah, you must be extremely proud, so well done. It's a reflection of obviously what you've done as a father, and yeah, your wife as well as a mother.
Thank you.
Let's go. Tell me about the journey of how did you get into basketball and how did that transpire your career as being a coach?
Sure. We started basketball, I want to say I was in 5th grade. So however you are, 10, 11, whatever it is. And you'll love this, Nick. We didn't have a gym. So we practiced outside. And it was 2 degrees, we practiced outside. And when it was snowing, we swept the snow off, and my coach used to tell us, so we'd be in our boots, galoshes, right? And he'd say, this is good for you guys, because when you get into the gym and put on gym shoes, you're going to jump higher. So I went from there to high school basketball, to college basketball, and then we played in a lot of semi-pro leagues. And it was actually in my senior year of high school that I thought, so I would have been 17, 18 then, about coaching, Nick. And I was very fortunate when I graduated from college. That very next year, I got a job coaching, and I coached your football, soccer, basketball, and baseball, all 3 sports. And then eventually decided that the sport that I enjoyed coaching the most was the basketball.
Wow, that's amazing. And what happened throughout your career? So what are the highlights and I guess what are the key learnings that you learned being a coach throughout, obviously, your illustrious career? Because it was a long time, 44 years as a career in basketball from start to finish. So, yeah, there would have been a lot that you would have learned.
Well, I'd have to say this, that the highlight of my career is at the University of St. Francis. We had 176 seniors play basketball for us, and 172 of them finished their degrees. So Nick, we had guys who knew why they came to school. They came to school to get an education. And then we had some pretty good players too, Nick. And at my Providence and at St. Francis, our kids won 602 games. So we did win, our share of games along the way. But we did it with really good kids, Nick. We did it with young men of character. And certainly one of the highlights, we were a small school, about 1,400 students. We went to the West Coast to play the University of San Francisco. Now, they are a big school, Nick, And in fact, they in their history, they won 2 national championships. And, for them to give us a little guarantee money to come and play them, we used a kid in America. They were looking to buy the win. So they give us money to supplement our budget so we can go out there. And I like to see if you like this quote, that success is never owned. It's only rented. And the rent is due every day.
Yeah, I love that.
When we played San Francisco, they didn't pay the rent that day because they knew we were a small school. They had 2 7-footers, Nick, okay? Our tallest kid was 6'6". So when they looked at us and we came out, they knew all they had to do was show up and beat us. Well, the bottom line is we beat them. Now, we really killed them, Nick. We beat them by 1. So it was a very close game, but that really was a highlight because you're not expected to win those games. And then I'd say the other highlights were when we were able to win to go to the national tournament, because then there's only 32 teams left in America. And when you're one of them, that's, really a great thing for the kids. So those would be the highlights. The biggest one being, in America, we're having a real problem at the highest level where kids are not finishing their degrees. They're playing ball. And as you know, most of them aren't going to play in the NBA. They think they are, but they're not going to be good enough. And then when they don't get their degrees, that's bad. So, yeah. Now, you guys have clubs, right?
Clubs, elaborate. What do you mean, clubs?
Is your athletic programs associated with the school, or are the players working for different clubs?
With the school systems and the college systems, we've got, you can play basketball or any kind of sports, but I guess to a certain degree, it's not the be-all, end-all here. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like education and, if you want to join clubs, you do it in your outside time and stuff. I guess exactly what you're saying. Whereas I know over there, obviously, that's a key driver and a main part of when you go to college and school, those programs. It's not as much emphasis over here. And we have different sports that are quite popular. So we've got like rugby league. There's other sports too that are different to basketball as well. And they're all generally done like after school or after college or university, if you want to call it over here. Yeah.
Yes. I know I've worked in Ireland, in Greece, in Austria, and in Belgium teaching basketball. And it's what a great opportunity that it has been for me to learn the different cultures and to learn what emphasis there is on different sports. And in Ireland, it wasn't a whole lot of basketball. It was rugby, Irish football, and hurling. Yeah.
Yeah, we got the Australian football too. So Ireland, it's one of the only other countries we play AFL as well, which is really one of our popular sports here as well. And we play against Ireland in a test because they're the only other country that plays that Irish football as well. So, yeah, it's amazing how the dynamics of the world and the sports work, I guess.
It really is, isn't it? And we always felt this. You can learn some real life lessons from sport. You learn about discipline. You learn about being a good teammate and working with other people. You better learn how to listen and concentrate because of the instruction you're going to receive. So we always felt that sport is a great background for you to get into whatever profession you want to get in.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more with you.
And Nick, we like this expression in the world of sport and teaching, that I have not taught until you've learned.
That's good. I like that.
Isn't that good? Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
What's staying on the coaching side of things in your career? Who has been a standout student or someone that you've mentored or coached that's really stood out for you throughout your career that you've obviously built a relationship with that, obviously you've got a soft spot for?
Yes. In college, I played baseball with a fellow named Ed Spezio. So he went on to play 9 years in the major leagues. So the top leagues for the pros. And Eddie played for St. Louis, the Cardinals. He played for the San Diego Padres and the Chicago White Sox. Now watch this. His son, Scott, also played 10 years in the major leagues. And here's the beautiful part of it. They are the only father-son combination who have World Series rings from the same organization. They both won a World Series. That's like the World Cup here in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both won a World Series with the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
It really is, isn't it? So when Ed, the guy I played with, when he went down prior to the opening Cardinals game after the World Series, he was able to present his son with his World Series ring.
Wow.
And the crowd loved it because everyone, most of us, we can't relate to playing in the big leagues, but we can relate to playing catch, playing ball with your dad.
Right? Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. What about any players that play basketball that you coach? Did they go on to professional careers?
Well, we weren't good enough. We weren't big enough to have players go to the NBA. Right. We did have one player where the Seattle Supersonics did come down to see him play to see if they might draft him, which they didn't, Nick, because he was primarily an inside player and he was 6'6". If you're going to play in the NBA, you better be nearing that 7-foot mark if you're going to play inside. We did have kids play professionally in Greece, in Lithuania. One was going to play in Ireland, and then at the last minute, it didn't work out for Mike. So we did have some kids who played professionally, but, not in, and that's why it was so not in the big time leagues, where in Europe, as you know, some of the leagues there pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for those guys, they're guys who maybe were cut by NBA teams. They're really good players. Yeah.
Yes. Tell me about your book.
Well, years ago, I started, when you were asked to speak as a coach. So I started to do a speech on the word attitude. And I used it as an acronym, gave each letter of the word that might make for a characteristic in a good leader. And when I retired, a couple of my players came to me and said, why don't you put that in a book? So that was the genesis of the book. It didn't come from me. It came from my players saying, why don't you give this a shot? So I did. And then after I had written that one, that would have been in 2013. Then we waited for a while. And then the guys came back to me. And they said, you were fortunate to be around a lot of good teams. Why don't you consider writing a book on teamwork? So both times it came from guys who I coached, who now are my friends.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. Well done.
Well, thank you.
What inspires Pat Daly?
I that's really interesting. I had one coach at the high school level who was very difficult to play for. He constantly criticized you, constantly was telling you you were no good, you were a bum, and he thought that negative reinforcement would make you try harder. So I had him. I learned a lot about coaching from him on what not to do. Don't do it that way. And then when I went to college, I had a guy, I'm prejudiced now, but I think he was one of the best coaches in America. Although he coached at smaller colleges all his life, he is the second winning college baseball coach in the history of college baseball. How about this? When the Chicago Tribune, when Gordy coached at the high school level in football, picked the best football coach in all of Illinois, it was him. And he was a great basketball coach. Played for a Hall of Fame, Naismith National Hall of Fame coach. And how's this, Nick? His name was Gordy Gillespie. He's since passed. He was in 18 Halls of Fame.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the beauty of Gordy as a coach, when he yelled at you, believe me, you knew you had been yelled at. But it was only about the action, never about the person. I never saw him demean an athlete in all the years I played for him. And then I worked with him for 25 years. He really did it the right way, and he was loved by the guys who played for him.
Yeah, okay. It's really impressive.
Yes, he was my inspiration, and you tried to emulate, your relationship with kids. That was another thing, Nick, that he used to say, that when you play for certain coaches, you become lifelong friends. And that is true. I think when coaching is all done, the one thing that it's been about is relationships. That you see the guys you coached, you see them raising their families, you see them in their professions. For example, one of our youngsters, African-American youngster, went on to be a lawyer. The state of Illinois Bar Association, the Lawyers Association, never had an African American as its president, and they were in existence for close to 150 years. And one of the guys we coached was the first black president of the Illinois Lawyers Association. Just a brilliant guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's astounding. That's unbelievable. Well done.
And we had another guy, Nick, the boards of trade, the big money joints, at the Chicago Board of Trade, we had another fella who probably, with all the different brokers up there, one of our St. Francis kids was probably the most respected man on the whole floor. So you don't have to come from Harvard or Yale or one of the big name schools to achieve in your profession. And I could give you many examples of the kids who are St. Francis graduates who really achieved.
Incredible. Incredible. What hobbies outside of basketball and obviously everything that you've done, what do you like to do in your downtime?
My downtime?
Yeah.
I love to read. And I love to read novels. I love to read autobiographies. I majored in English in college. So I actually taught literature at the high school level. and I never lost my love of reading. The other thing, Nick, that I like to do that I think really is important, I love to work out. And I would work out and still work out probably a minimum of 4 times a week. And whereas a lot of people don't like to go to the gym, I like to go. I'm a different guy. I like to go to the gym, and I enjoy getting that, that good sweat. And I think you release endorphins where you really feel better after a workout. So those would be, and then how about this one? Watching the grandchildren play sports.
Yeah, nice.
I love it. I just love it. Yeah.
Good for you. If you were 18 again, you could go back in time and you could change anything, what would you change?
Well, let me start with this. And this is really nice to be able to say at 77 years of age, I have no regrets. I think I've been very blessed in my life. And if there would only be one thing, a dear friend of mine was offered the University of Notre Dame basketball job. And he was going to ask me to come as an assistant. And that probably would have been the only school, Nick, that I would have gone to other than St. Francis, because I was so happy there. And then it didn't work out for my friend at the very last moment. And his name was Rick Majerus. He had coached at the University of Utah and had great teams, played for the national championship, NCAA championship at Utah, had great teams at the University of St. Louis. And I think I can say this. He was one of the best basketball coaches in America. And unfortunately, we lost Rick too young to heart disease. But that probably would have been a change that I would have made. I would have been close to my children. At that time, all 5 of them were living in the Chicago area. And Notre Dame would be about a 2-hour drive from Chicago. So that would have worked out well. But no regrets. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Pat, thanks for coming on my podcast. I do appreciate it. I think you've done amazing in your career, and everything you've done, and just generally a great guy. So yeah, thanks for coming on my podcast.
Nick, thank you for this opportunity, and I really enjoyed it.
So did I. Thank you.
Oh, okay.